knowing what life was like without it, I wake up every single day and I'm grateful that I can do this. The reassurance that I could come away with that gold and that I could win was like you say, it was just reassurance that I am in the right place, that I am putting the time into the right thing. I think when I got on the mat, I was just that happy to be there. And don't get me wrong, before I went on the mat, I spent about 3 weeks purely getting fit and purely just shadow boxing. My face started itching. And I was pumping, and then that's when I sort of got like an instant fatigue where I slowed, and I didn't feel faint until the moment I could see the window and the light come through, and it was sort of like an intense bright light, and I think that's what made me get out.
Welcome to the Real Side Podcast. Happy New Year to everyone, and I hope everyone's doing well. Today we're filming early January, so it is still sort of New Year to everyone.
It is New Year for sure.
Today we're introducing Ciaran, who's a mixed martial artist and up and coming in the sport. Tell me about yourself, Ciaran, and why you even came into the sport in the first time.
I've been in the sport for years now, since a child, about 16, 17, I got into boxing. Wanted to learn a bit more, seen a few other disciplines around me, had some good friends who were into wrestling, paired the two together, eventually moved into MMA. Did MMA for maybe 4 years before competing into MMA.
Yeah.
Competed in other sports, wrestling, jiu-jitsu beforehand. Started competing in MMA in 2021. Had a injury late 22, took about 2 years out of the sport. 2 years out of competing, 1 year out of the sport. Thankfully, got my surgery, got back into the sport quite swiftly. And from there, I've been pretty diligent with my approach and working towards getting as many fights as possible.
Yeah, lovely. So growing up, obviously people can probably hear by the accent you're from Manchester. What is it like before even going into the sport and growing up in Manchester? Was all your mates involved in this sport, or like what was it like growing up? Was it?
I wouldn't say so, no. Like typical normal upbringing, lived on a council estate, lived around very average people, good people, going about the day. No one really aspired to anything out of the ordinary.
Working class kind of.
Working class people.
Yeah.
And then I had the odd few people that I aspired to. I had some good friends doing well in football, had some good friends doing well in boxing, a very good friend who was a wrestler. I sort of paired into boxing more so just as a common interest, and then he started pulling me towards wrestling. I was enjoying that, and then I sort of moulded myself into the fighting community, the MMA community, being a lot closer to these people inside and outside of the gym, and really just picking my time wisely and just making sure every moment mattered and I was in the right circles as much as possible.
Yeah, nice. So what sort of age did you sort of become introduced into this scene? Like of
fight scene?
No, mixed martial arts.
All the fight scene.
Yeah, all the fight scene.
Like I say, literally about
16,
17 years old. The gym, funnily enough, the gym 20 doors down from my mum's house was a boxing gym, which later to come, current date, is now our MMA gym back in Manchester. Okay. It's converted. The boxing coach has moved out. He's got a gym down the road, and our MMA coach has took that facility, changed it into his own Daywalkers Academy. It's called, and yeah, now we're there. Sort of like a full circle moment, really.
Yeah, nice.
Like I say, I'm in London, living in London, so I'm not there as much as I could be. But every time I get home, I make sure I'm there.
Yeah, nice. So going back, did you like obviously going to your gym at first, was it sort of like a nervous thing like to break into it? Because obviously you're only 16, you're quite young. Or did you just think like, this is sort of like what I want to do, this is what I want to try out? It's sort of an experimental stage.
Exactly that. I never went in there with a divine intention. I went in there as more of a social aspect. I enjoyed the activity. It was a good thing to put my time into, and I get a lot out of it. And from there, I just progressed, kept feeding more energy into it, doing as much as I could, and the growth just kept growing. The love just kept growing for the sport, and now I'm here and I invest the majority of my time into it.
And how old are you now?
I'm 25 now. Yeah.
So a good 9 years.
It's been a good solid 7, 8 years. I've been in and around the sport.
Yeah, nice. So when you first like came into the scene and all stuff like that, did you ever like who would you say is your role model in sort of the sort of aspect, sort of like cheering you on and sort of like not cheering you on, but sort of like kept your route to keep going to the gym? Because a lot of people go to the gym and they don't really have like the drive to carry on going. Do you know what I'm saying?
I understand. Yeah. I mean, in the younger years, it was never more so the idols that urged me to come back. It was more so the community that had me coming back. Like, I really enjoyed the aspect of being with my peers. We were all developing at similar steady rates. I was never really looking up to too many people. There were people to look up to, don't get me wrong. Some of the gyms I've been in, some great fighters are currently at the top of the division in different promotions, UFC, Bellator, PFL. But yeah, like I say, it was more so being with my peers and all learning together and growing together that fed my urge to keep coming back and keep investing.
Like that sense of belonging to like a group, like a positive group of people as well. Because I think
the sense of belonging, sense of development.
Was because obviously Manchester was the area that you grew up in, quite rough. Was it that sense of like finding somewhere and you're like, I need to stay
away from
here.
the streets, and this is like in a community, in a gym, a nice clean aspect.
Yeah, so primarily I'm from Salford, which is in Manchester.
Salford,
anyone can look into Salford and see what Salford's about. If you don't find something you're interested in, you're only going to sit in the same circle. Hopefully everyone finds something they're interested in, they thrive in it, and they push forward and keep doing it.
So you started the sport when you're 16, but when did you first have your first like amateur fight, or first like started taking this seriously and thought, do you know what, I'm going to pursue this. This is sort of like what I want to do. I'm enjoying it. It's just what I want to pursue. What sort of age was you at? And
the first competition I had, I was 17 years old.
Oh, right.
It was a jiu-jitsu based competition.
Yeah.
I went in. In jiu-jitsu, you do. It's a 2-piece turnout. You'll do one with your gi, your full uniform on. You'll compete in this, and then later on you'll compete in no gi, which is rash guard, shorts. I went in, immediately got smoked in the gi. Went into no gi.
Yeah.
Got smoked in the no gi quite quickly, and I think walking away from it and just the sense of knowing you're not exactly where you need to be, just fed that hunger to get where I wanted to be.
It left a bitter taste in your mouth.
A bitter taste in my mouth, and
it would do though, wouldn't it?
Oh, 1,000,000%, and a serious wake up call and a serious hunger for growth, and
that's good though.
And I stuck at it. I kept doing it, and I couldn't pinpoint how long it was until I did my second one, but I did my second one and managed to get the gold in the no gi discipline.
Oh, there you go.
To this day, I've never done gi again.
Just keep the gold in it.
I don't put the
gi
gi on much, but the no gi, I managed to get the gold in the no gi, and from there, later on, that's when I started actively competing MMA.
Right, okay.
That's progress though, isn't it? Like you see that, you got smoked 2 rounds and then you go get the gold, which is that must have been a nice feeling, obviously, and something to urge you even more, I would imagine.
Definitely.
A big buzz.
I think the reassurance that I could come away with that gold and that I could win was like you say, it was just reassurance that I am in the right place, that I am putting the time into the right thing.
Yeah, 100%. You can't go through everything winning, can you? Not everything's gold in life.
No.
Do you know what I mean?
Even if you're winning in your sport, you'd be blind to say you're not losing in other aspects of life.
Yeah.
The only way you learn in life is making mistakes or making loss, and in fights maybe it's sometimes getting tumped up, but that's life, and that's sort of how you learn and progress. And for you, in your aspect, it seems like that's fulfilled your hunger, and it seemed like you wanted to carry on and fucking push through. But what about boxing? Was you never like sort of into boxing, or because you said you started it, or is that just sort of like the first thing you started?
It was 20 doors down from my house.
Right.
Like,
okay.
It was definitely more so. Like as a child, my mum and my dad, they drove me into different hobbies. Played a bit of football, 2 left feet. played a bit of rugby. 60 kilos pissed.
Too small, yeah.
And then got into boxing. You're always going to compete against someone the same weight as you.
Yeah.
Everything's always going to be as even as possible. You've a lot more opportunity to thrive.
Level playing field, isn't it?
Yeah, level playing field.
Yeah, nice.
I was going to ask, like, in terms of, you're obviously pushing to, you know, take the sport as far as you can, get into one of those big organisations. Would you say that you've got anyone that you've kind of observed and watched to get a lot of technical skills and range and, you know, just the different disciplines? There's obviously always someone that's pretty good in each discipline.
1,000,000%.
Is there someone that you've kind of gone like, no, that's quite an all-round fighter and I could really base my style on that person?
A prime example of a current-to-date fighter would be one of my previous main sparring partners back in Manchester, Lewis McGrillen. Yeah. He just recently, he wasn't in the tournament. It's a PFL, the organisation. Yeah. He wasn't in the tournament from the start, and quite fortunate for him, someone had an injury, couldn't fight in the tournament in the semi-finals. Lewis swapped in, won the semi-finals, came into the finals, won the finals, and came away with a belt and $100,000. Wow. So yeah, it's incredible, really.
And how long did it take him to get? So like, was there like quite a quick transition from him going into like PFL and then obviously?
So he had quite an extensive amateur career. I'd say he probably did about 10 fights. Everyone in amateur normally does about 10 fights. Yeah. Shifted over to pro. I think he had maybe 4 or 5 regional pro fights before finally getting his toes into the PFL scene. Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. So 5 regional fights.
Yeah, 5
What's
regional
that,
professional
like
Fights.
Cage Warriors or something like?
It was actually a lot more local show. One funded by like a Manchester organisation, Vida Fight Championships. I'm not sure if it's still a thing to this date. But it was a very good feeder, and like I say, the MMA and media around it could really push these fighters. And this particular fighter pushes himself heavily anyway. Like you'll see this fight, he rings bells.
Would you say it's easier, because obviously like you're saying 10 fights for an amateur is pretty regular. You're a good amateur in boxing, for instance, got to have over 100 amateur fights, for instance. Would you say that it's easier to get recognised in, obviously there's more people doing boxing, generally speaking, but would you say it's easier to go from regional fights to, like you said, like your friend who's gone from, 5 regional fights to get onto the world international stage?
Yeah.
That seems quite short.
It's definitely pushed a lot more aggressively. Mm-hmm. And I think the UK MMA scene as a whole is one of the highest, personally, one of the highest level internationally, especially amateur. Okay. Like the level of amateur MMA in the UK is tenfold better than a lot of the other countries.
What would you say that is down to, though? Because we've obviously got a lot. You look at a country like Brazil, the MMA is massive. They're obviously hitting it quite hard as well. But because we've got quite a small population compared to some of these countries.
I think it's down to the English population has been fighting for years.
Yeah. Everyone's been fighting for years. The Turks have been fighting for years, and I ain't seen one decent one apart from one guy and he came from Glory.
I think primarily it's the hunger for the sport in itself. Yeah. A lot of these other countries, they're competing heavily, but they're competing in disciplines like jiu-jitsu, competing in wrestling, and then they come into MMA and they drive. Like I say, more specifically, the amateur MMA scene in the UK is so aggressive in its front foot, because everyone from a kid has jumped into it now. There's 10-year-old kids who probably haven't done a kickboxing lesson, they've only done MMA. They're straight into it. They just drive. There's a relentless drive to get there, and I think that's why you're later seeing now so many UK MMA fighters.
Because they are popping up everywhere.
Bigger promotions, 100%. Do well in these bigger promotions. Even get into the top 10, the top 5 in these promotions. Yeah,
because I've got a friend at work, and someone that he knows, he fights in the PFL at the minute as well. Yeah, I think he had one of his first losses not that long ago. I think he got KO'd, to be fair. But he was on the hunt for that Grand Prix tournament belt kind of thing. Yeah.
Probably wouldn't know the name, to be fair.
His surname's Powell. Simeon Powell, that's it. Yeah, that's it.
I'm familiar with the fighter.
I'm not name dropping, I'm just saying. There's someone that I know has gone through that kind of scene a little bit or know
Yeah,
of.
he's made
at
some
least.
noise in the scene as well.
Yeah, that's
and he
it. 'Cause
will
I remember
continue
watching
to
some
make
of his
noise in the
highlights.
scene.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I've always just because a lot of I don't know someone I was talking to recently. He's like a lot of foul boxers will just go into MMA, learn some of those skills, and because there's a short kind of turnover, now from what you're saying, from the aggression of, and if you've already got a bit of a background, they can push you a little bit quicker as well.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's massive, isn't it? It's
I think if
getting
you've got
huge.
talent and you can sell yourself, then you've really set yourself up for success.
That's
MM
what it's all about at the
huge,
end of the
isn't it?
day, getting bums on the seats. You've got to sort of have a characteristic sort of value about it. You've got to sort of have, but you've got to be able to get people to come and watch it
Yeah, of
at the end
course.
of the day.
Exactly.
You've got to,
Like
have people to come and watch her.
This is one of the main struggles
the
I
money.
have living in London. I've got a very, very strong support system in Manchester.
Yeah.
And in my earlier fights, I could sell up to 100 tickets.
Yeah.
I'm in London. It's a little bit harder for people to get here.
Yeah,
Maybe
yeah.
sell 20 if I'm lucky,
Yeah.
sort of thing.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
there's a big difference, really. You have to rely on the quality of your fight and making the noise
promotion
yourself,
as well, yeah.
promotion.
And how does that affect you? Because obviously in an amateur stage, you don't really get paid a lot of money. So obviously, I'm assuming you're working just to fund these fights.
Yeah, 1,000,000%.
Yeah.
From the get go, even in Manchester, when I could sell 100 tickets, like you might make yourself £1,000.
Yeah,
Hopefully
yeah,
you
yeah.
know how quickly you can spend £1,000.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Now you could fart £1,000.
Tide
Yeah.
comes in, tide goes out.
Yeah,
That's
literally,
literally it.
you always got to find your way to fund yourself.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and it's not a cheap sport to be in as well. It's not just the sport; it's the wellness, the recovery, everything outside of the
It's all
sport.
of
Your
that
strength
as well.
and
Yeah, of
conditioning.
course.
You're a finely tuned machine, really.
Especially if you're trying to
Everything's gotta
get
be
to
right.
that next level, you've got to kind of, I guess, build that elite environment.
Yeah.
So to speak.
Got to have that mentality, haven't you? Because a lot of people will crumble.
Comes with money, though.
Yeah, a lot of people will crumble. Like, I haven't got enough money to fund the sport, or I haven't got this, or I haven't got that. And some people will go, do you know what? I'll give up. I'll just work my 9 to 5. So I've got a bit of money to actually live on.
Real Side Podcast is looking for some sponsors now.
Yeah.
Get your sponsors hat on. Do you know what I mean? We need some sponsors in here. So if anyone's watching,
funding, man.
we got
driving.
one of the best UK talents in the building, and he needs some extra dough to
Fingers
make
crossed,
himself
man.
get there.
Fingers crossed, man.
Don't ask, you don't get, guys.
Yeah,
Sorry, I just
sure.
Yeah,
I
literally
put it
put
out.
it out there. Put it out there.
Put it out there. do you know what I mean?
Regardless, I'm going to keep proving
If
myself.
you ain't going to promote yourself, I will.
Yeah,
But
I'm going
I
to
can
keep
see
proving
you got that
myself, and my
nice
fights
fight.
will show in it. My fights
That's it.
will
Yeah,
show.
there's that as well,
Yeah.
for sure. But you need someone banging a drum. Who's the most annoying guy out there? Sam Jones. Do you know Sam Jones, the boxing? He's like
Is
a
that like
promoter slash
okay.
manager. I think he's got a few. Like he's got Joe Joyce under his hat.
I'm not
before.
massively familiar with
He's the
boxing
most
scene, but
annoying guy ever. But he gets all of his
Gets them moving.
fighters big fights.
Yeah.
Gets some good contracts because he's just that annoying that people are just like, go on, mate, just all right. So you need one of them behind you.
Yeah.
You need one. I'm happy to be that guy.
Yeah,
by the
definitely.
way.
mate, I'll take you off. on
I'm
that.
really
I
annoying.
think
And I
this
could definitely
year,
be ringing up people left,
have
right,
as
and
active
centre.
a year as possible, ring as many bells as possible.
That's it.
Throw the proof in the pudding, in the fights, get the finishes,
Yeah.
make the noise, and everything's to come. Fingers crossed.
That's it. And obviously, the other question I wanted to have, just while we're in that early development stage, what was the reason out to move from Manchester to London, and what was that transition like for you?
I left London, and the only relation it had to the sport was to get away from it,
As in Manchester, yeah.
to get away from the
Yeah.
sport.
Yeah.
Because
when
when I had my knee injury,
So it was a knee injury, yeah. What was the injury?
So
if
I
you don't mind me
had a
asking?
medial tear on my meniscus,
Oh, a bit
which
geeky
caused
like
it to
that.
lock. So I spent about 12 months with this injury on the mats.
And tried fighting for it,
And
and
I had
just training for it and stuff.
I had to pull out of 2 title fights, amateur regional, due to the injury being so severe and the intensity of the camps, it not being able to hold.
Gotta be careful.
And that is what led me to maybe take a step away from the sport. At the time, my cousin was doing lighting in the film industry. He was filming Netflix series in London.
Yeah.
I was doing a lot of work in London. And then later on, my missus, she's a contemporary dancer. She moved to London because her industry's here.
Yeah, of course.
And then the two paired together. I moved, we got our place.
Yeah.
And then life wasn't the happiest place. And a lot of the closest people around me drove me back into the sport, even if it was just potentially to be as a hobby,
Yeah.
just to sort of put a smile on my face. And straight away the hunt.
Get your
go.
mojo
Yeah.
back, basically.
Yeah, literally like the minute I went on the mats, I wanted to spend every minute on the mat, and it was very quickly. By the grace of God, I got the date for my surgery, because that's a whole other story. The palaver of having 2 years to wait for the surgery. But in the end, we got it done. And like I say, 4 weeks after the surgery, I was on the mat. And the week after that, I had 2 fights booked in for 2 weeks after each other.
Oh, wow.
Like, I was,
Get it quick.
I was
Get it quick.
straight on it. Like,
See, that's the other thing, going back to that money. If he had a really good sponsor,
He'd be able to get that surgery like that.
Like that.
oh, crazy, yeah.
And he wouldn't
yeah.
have to spend that time out.
Yeah.
But sometimes, what I always believe is things happen for a reason.
Exactly.
Maybe that 2 years that you had out of the sport was necessary.
Is what, yeah, I think that's what drives me to work so diligently in the sport.
Yeah,
personally.
that's
Like the time I had away from the sport was the awakening I needed to know that the sport is my life.
Yeah.
But
Look,
when you was out at the stage of your sport for 2 years, what was your mental health sort of like? Was you struggling?
So,
or, because surely the way you're talking about it and the way you're so passionate about it, and this is your drive, you found something you enjoy and you like, and now it's sort of been stripped away from you in a certain aspect. Was that hard to deal with?
The 12 months where I trained full time with the injury was not as bad as the 12 months where I walked away from the sport. I think the things that led me to walk away from the sport was having to pull out of these 2 big opportunities that I felt like at the time, and then having to deal with that emotion. And then that's what led me to leave the sport, because I wasn't convinced I was going to get this knee right and be able to actively compete. And then the 12 months where I wasn't in the sport was where the real darkness happened, because if you're not doing what you feel like you're meant to do, you have to kill that clock, and you have to do other things to try and live your life and have positive experiences. And it's never guaranteed that these things are going to fill that hole, or even somewhat replace it. You're constantly doing things that are never going to satisfy you.
Yeah.
When you love something as much as I love this.
So in that time, what did you do to did you keep an eye on MMA? Do you still?
I was massively keeping an eye on the UK amateur MMA scene.
Yeah.
I will always be an MMA fan. I will always watch the bigger promotions.
Yeah.
But I was constantly watching local fighters, seeing kids who I'd been in the mat with, and seeing how well they did, and
flourish
and every single time it was a kick in the teeth. But then it was also that slight bit of hope that things might change. These 12 months I invested heavily in my business. I just worked and worked and worked. Like I say, I'm an electrical contractor. So that was one of the main things that I replaced my time with. But then other outside things like social gatherings with people who are on a million different paths to what you're on to. Any other way to, like I say, kill the clock essentially.
It's ticking,
literally.
Just see how you can get on and get to where you want to really be.
Yeah.
But by the sounds of it, which is really positive, sounds like you're kind of back on track.
Yeah.
In a really positive place and looking to make some big moves, hopefully.
God willing.
Free tickets, isn't it?
Yeah, God willing. Always. Definitely.
We'll get some tickets until we're making the big dough.
Yeah. I think the next fight should be in the diary very soon. I did have one booked for February 22nd. Unfortunately, that opponent couldn't make the fight. He did fight. He did fight a 5-round fight the same night I fought.
Still bold.
Yeah,
bold job.
Yeah, but
keep it humble.
No. He fought the same night, and like you say, he had a 5-round fight. You never know how you're going to come out of these fights.
Yeah, of course.
You never know how you're going to come out of these fights. I've come out of a fight and not been able to walk for 2 weeks, and you'll watch the fight on the highlight. It'll look like I breezed it, but one little niggly thing that you don't feel there and then,
because the adrenaline
will sit on you for weeks. We'll sit on you for weeks.
What is I've always because like. I find I watch a lot of boxing, a lot of MMA. They don't really talk about some of the real dangers, because if you went into it too deeply, they'd probably start thinking about shutting some of these sports down, if I'm really truthful with you.
What do you mean? I love it.
Like, as in, look at football. They're looking at headering a football
CTE.
as something that is giving you progressive issues later on in life, yeah?
Yeah.
You're getting smashed in the head, yeah? You're getting your head pulverised into a mat, let's say. Someone giving you a free shot. If they started discussing... So I did, just because I'm a like I've always had a keen eye on the body, looking after the body, what happens with sport. Because I think if I'm really truthful, I think exercise is great for the body, but I think sport is actually pretty bad for the body in the long run.
I could agree.
I'm talking about even football. Go and look at a footballer's knees, hips, or, you know, just those general wear and tear, what it actually does to them.
These movements aren't functional.
Yeah.
And they're not movements you should be doing
Correct,
repetitively over and
From a
over and over
biomechanical
again.
perspective,
Yeah, you're always going to have wear and tear. Like, even with, like you say, the brain injuries, the CTE, like, the evidence is there in all the past life boxes you can watch now. You see them get on the camera, they can't piece a sentence together.
Yeah, some of them.
And it's sad to see.
Do you think that's got better over time, or do you think that's always going to be the same? Because that love of the sport still. You're never going to fix it.
That's what I'm saying. So 2 weeks after a fight, have you ever had any longer lasting effects post fight? Like
Than 2 weeks?
Yeah.
No. Thank God. No. Like I say, the worst one I've probably come out of was my second amateur fight, where I threw a leg kick and it landed on the wrong part of the shin. Maybe landed in a little bit of a fluid part of my ankle, and for like 2-3 weeks I wasn't walking on it. I was on a crutch.
Crutches,
No severe injury. Like had it looked at, no tear, nothing like that. But yeah, I weren't walking for like 3 weeks.
One guy, friend, he had a amateur fight. He got hit in the ear, and he said his ear for about 6 weeks was just like that.
Like ringing, almost like when you're on a building site. It was tinnitus.
Yeah. That literally for 6 weeks.
Wow.
And he was quite worried that it'd be like a long-term thing.
Yeah, and that faded eventually.
Yeah, perforated eardrum, I think, is what he had in the end. So.
Yeah.
Do you ever like think about that in the long term, or do you not even think about it? Do you just think about your goal and what you set on?
If I thought about that in the long term, then I would be thinking about why am I not making enough money.
Literally.
If I thought about any of these things, like you say, you wouldn't do the sport, but would you live?
Yeah, it's true. Well, look, based on your nose, because I always look at a boxer's nose, an MMA fighter's nose. If it's pretty straight, you're doing a decent job, I reckon.
I must be slipping my head.
Exactly.
I must be slipping.
He's at least got a bit of defence. You know what I mean? That's a big one, I think. You know.
No, you're right.
Cole Froch, look at him, took them all on the nose. You know what I mean, for many years. But yeah, cheers for some. You know, I didn't know if you'd want to talk too much about that, because some people don't want to talk about that.
Like it's a big part of it for me, especially present day in the journey, with it being so recent.
Yeah.
Like it's a big part for me to unveil, because I had to go through that, and now I've got my years where I can move forward.
That's it.
And
Do you feel like after your surgery and after coming back from the sport, there's still a lot, like, say, cool, you was at this level and then you're injured. Do you feel like you're still not at that level, or do you feel like you are sort of in a sort of word? I can't really phrase it.
I get what you mean. I'm definitely miles past the level I was when I left the sport.
Yeah.
When I came back, I hadn't lost anything.
Yeah.
I hadn't lost a thing. If anything, I only felt like I gained, because although I wasn't heavily in the sport, I was still doing what I could. I was still analysing what I could. I was still growing, and I was still pursuing the sport as a whole, whether it be a small part of my life, wherever I could, sort of thing. I couldn't have competed. I couldn't train too physically, but MMA has always been a thing for me, even just as a movement. So I felt like I was constantly growing and understanding for the sport and developing in the sport, even with the time off.
Because you see it quite often, like even for example Tom Aspinall, when he done his legging, he's come back and he just looks fucking 10 times stronger. He looks like an animal, doesn't he? He looks like an animal.
Yeah, like you say, I think sometimes you need to experience these things in order to move forward.
And especially in the sport, it's sort of like you can't really dodge experiencing it. You're getting battered, didn't you?
You can't.
Like,
the way I tore my knee was the simplest way possible. I just collar tie, ankle trip, and it just locked. Put my foot down, went straight to the floor. Not much pain, but just disabled. I had to mould it in a way that I could feel the joint click back over and unlock. It was a situation where it was a reoccurring situation where it would happen maybe 10 times within a 2-hour session. And because there's no pain, I would just jump back down, straighten it up, pop it back, jump back up, try and crack on. But the minute you try and compete, and that happens,
Yeah, it's a difference.
no one's going to let you do that, are they?
No.
Yeah, no, of course.
So
What happened at that point? Did the ref stop it? Did you like?
that wasn't in a fight, it was in a
Oh.
training session.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It was just in an evening training session.
Yeah.
They just did something that I've maybe done 100 times over.
That's what I'm saying. It's just so innocuous, especially
Yeah.
It's a small little
ligaments,
thing.
tendons, all of that kind of stuff, all that connective
Yeah.
tissue. It's just so
Fragile stuff.
fragile.
Like you say, you're not designed to move like that. Like,
No way. You know, like I exercise,
Not without
fantastic,
risk.
and even too much exercise ain't great for
Yeah.
you. Go, you know, as an amateur, go compete or train for a London Marathon, let's say.
yeah.
You know, like a lot of people do it, charity or whatever. Got to tell them, ask them what they've gone through.
Pain.
You know, a lot of pain.
and suffering.
And that's because you're
Yeah.
constantly pounding every
You're
day.
breaking mental barriers every single day and physical
Schools.
barriers.
That's why you only have a short window where you
can really, really
and you
enjoy
see
it.
that in a year that fighter was top of his game. The next year, it all starts
Not the
catching up.
same.
You lose that slight step, and it's all due to those niggling injuries that
Exactly.
the body can't recover with as well, or you can't master them as well.
In the time it would
From
take.
what I hear from professional athletes.
And then I think the personal experiences, they have a snowball effect. You might have an injury, you might not come back the same. The next fight might not work out the way you want it. And how do you cope from that? How do you
Exactly.
move from that? And how does that
from a
snowball?
confidence level, it's like you can.
It's all about mentality, isn't
Yeah,
it?
it's like you can
Yeah.
just
About
see a
mentality.
fighter, one fight, and then lose a fight, and they're totally different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You see it all the time.
Yeah,
don't you?
that's
You
what I'm
see it all
saying.
the
It's just
time.
most of it's up here.
Yeah.
You know, most of it
1,000,000%.
is in
Mind
your
over
head.
matter, isn't it?
Most of the time
And
it is. Yeah.
Have you found anything that's helped you to keep your mind straight and not have like negative thoughts creep in, or is it just you're focused and you're always in the gym and you're always looking to progress? Because some like what you said, Butch, some people have a loss or whatever, and from that it goes a downhill spiral.
Oh, just so quickly, you know.
Yeah, I know it's full circle, but the time I had out of the sport is what feeds my energy into the sport.
Yeah.
Knowing what life was like without it,
You need that.
I
that-
wake up every single day and I'm grateful that I can do this.
Yeah.
Every session
Good.
is a blessing. Like,
That's it, man. So obviously I've seen some footage of you fighting. However, Butch hasn't
No, I
seen
haven't
any
actually.
footage.
You said you weren't going to let me see some.
No,
until
we've
today.
got some footage here, so I'm gonna ask Callum behind
kept
the
it all
cameras
secret.
to,
He said I can't
put
see
it
any
on.
until today.
from Phil for there.
yeah.
There's a
Get
few
his-
bits.
get his
Makes it more
natural-
enjoyable.
I'm not
get
sure
his
what they've
natural
put
response.
together, but yeah, there's a few bits to watch.
Yeah, but we'll get this up anyway.
Two young athletes making
have a
their
look at
amateur
this.
debut here.
Inside with the
Ciaran
Celtic
Heffernan fighting
leather.
out of the
Okay, this is the
red
debut,
corner
isn't it?
in the
it.
white and black
Ref,
tie
first one.
shorts representing Manchester top team, taking on 4D MMA's Ciaran
Good footwork, do you
Yorston.
know what I mean, the fundamentals are
Ciaran
there,
and
guys.
Ciaran,
The
Heffernan and
fundamentals are
Yorston.
there.
Heffernan in the tie shirt,
Nice
Yorston in the
southpaw
blue
stance.
RDX.
Definitely
And
more
man, they're
aggressive
swinging
approach on the
hard.
Big tool, the little dip against the south.
As a first like fight.
Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe nerves played into effect. But
Yeah,
obviously it's
yeah.
not
Just
about,
went for it though, yeah.
So far,
Very light on
neither-
your feet though, aren't you? Just watching your footwork.
So at this
About to
point,
say,
it's
neither-
3 minute
neither man
rounds,
wanted
and
to
you
go
do
into the
5,
clinch,
3 minutes.
and
These
Or is
are
it free,
straightaway
free,
one of them went to the
free,
Unless you
yeah.
fight for a title and then
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
five.
similar to like UFC's 5 and
Yeah.
their own titles
could
or
have been a
yeah,
mistake.
big headline fights.
On to the
Took his
back.
back fight easily there.
One hook in,
Yeah.
2 hooks in.
I think he went for the
There he
takedown.
goes,
bit of
turns
low
the
wrestling,
tables,
and then I
Heffernan.
found mine.
In a really strong position now, hard to see where that is, but he's man off the top, but
Strong position,
little
can't get any
readjustment
stronger
from
than that.
Heffernan.
Back.
and he's throwing that choke
Oh,
on.
it looks like he's got it.
straightens him out.
It looks tight.
That's
Under
it.
the chin, big
Sleep
squeeze.
time.
Yorston's still fighting the handoff.
Gotta find
Yeah,
it.
doing the right thing, but
That's it. Twist
One
him.
more belly
Twist
down.
him.
readjust the grip. 10 seconds.
Oh, he's not long left.
And
Next
there's
the
time,
tap.
got it in time.
Right on the bell.
Well, Ciaran Heffernan has certainly brought the crowd with him tonight. The 1-0
You can hear
Manchester
the
top
noise
team
in this
fighter. He's wearing the white black trim tie shorts. Two good camps.
Yeah, two camps I know very well, Steve.
No.
Sold
all
100
that
for this.
Rob
back.
You can
Friedman.
see it even looks like,
And the combat
like you've even
performance
raised the
centre of
level in
Blackburn
terms
versus
of
the
the
infamous Manchester top team.
competition that you've got just based off
It's
of the
another
ring.
southpaw
Yeah,
orthodox
yeah.
And the
matchup.
setup, it looks like a bit more of a professional setup.
Oh yeah, it's a
Going
great
to
cage.
that
Yeah, yeah.
calf.
It looks
Again, you can
nice.
see the
Competition's
composure
great
between
as
the
well.
two
This
guys.
kid's
They're
just
trying to get a
walking.
read, Steve. They want to
Yeah.
set a
Nice
trap for one
fight.
another
I
here.
want to know at this point, man.
They're not just throwing shots willy-nilly. They're not coming in
Wait a
all
minute.
guns blazing.
I can tell you.
Now fighting with an experienced.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
looking
yeah,
for
yeah. Setting
precision
it up,
work
looking
here.
for the setup.
Oh! Yeah, it's hard. Yet you watch, hard to think that
connected.
Only 3 fights between the 3 of them. Between the 1-0 for Heffernan, he just ate another combination there. Khan, we've seen it tonight. Khan doesn't throw singles like they don't.
Does he do a lot of video
analysis? The minute after my fight,
goes inside.
Yeah.
And then I
These
sort
look
of
like guys with experience outside of MMA.
Until you need it for like next training, just have a look at where you went wrong here and there, maybe.
Like you say, after the fight, I'll watch it 20 times.
Yeah.
See what went well, I see what went wrong, what I should do a bit more, what I should change.
Level change from Ciaran Heffernan there. He's just giving Khan
Any
a little something else to
10
rituals?
seconds left to go.
No,
Kick
like
again,
Paddy's
but
always like, I've got to smash
guard
into a
in place
pizza.
for
Like.
No,
Ciaran
post
Heffernan.
rituals, no. I mean, I've like
Wow,
a few
that's
fights
3 minutes
structure, I
has
like to
flown
have
by.
friends around there.
Yeah.
a half a step
Yeah.
I've talked about all night, Steve. It's small margins, but big rewards.
Yeah.
Oh, nice
Whoa,
1-2.
Jason
Come up in here,
landed
buddy.
next to Hill,
It's
fires
always
back.
getting
That
pinged
was the
by a
best
southpaw.
combination of the fight so far, the 1-2 from Heffernan. I'd like to see the left high kick now from Ciaran
So you know,
Heffernan.
like the whole leg
Even
kick
when he's eating
fashion,
shots, he's
that's proper in at the
still
minute, isn't
firing
it? The
back.
whole leg
Yeah,
kick
the
in.
calf kick.
Calf kick,
primarily,
innit?
the calf
Pereira's
kick.
like
Never
solidified that
takes
one,
his
isn't
eyes
it?
off his
Yeah.
opponent.
You see his toe in his last
Again, they
fight.
both
Oh,
trade
yeah.
Yeah, and he had to put
In a
it
minute, I
back
think
into
we're going to
place.
get that phone booth fight where
Yeah.
they stand in the pocket and just go hell for leather. People on their feet. It's very tight.
Oh, there's that left high kick. He's showing it now. He goes low.
You know what I was
He's got to
saying
use
about
them
2
fakes
weeks
now,
I went
Ciaran
walking.
Heffernan.
I think that was the one.
That looked like it didn't hit
Yeah,
in
it
the right
didn't hit
place.
right. It
Yeah,
didn't
you
hit
can
right
see
now.
that.
30-yard screamer.
Yeah.
When his face doesn't
Could see
change,
that.
even in the
You
middle
could
of a
even see, I don't know if you noticed, but it looked like you even felt it
It's
at
a
that
pressure
point.
work, but
Or without realising.
Yeah,
It's
I-
still
Your
a
adrenaline's
very
probably
hard
going.
Didn't
set
look right.
right
You
now.
see you
Absolutely.
even,
The
like, I don't know, there was that
counter-striking
slide.
from Sahel
Yeah,
Khan
Yeah,
has
you
been
can see
after-
when a
Oh!
fighter's... Oh, that's it. Gotta get on top, innit? Gotta get on top. Wait, can we... Wait. Gotta go back. Oh.
This is
currently
this is
undefeated at 3-0.
That
this is
literally
about
sat
12.
him down. How long did it take? Wait, sorry, I know we
That-
didn't
That was on the
fight.
buzzer of the second round. That
How
was.
long did it take him to get up, though?
Oh, bro, like 15.
Very recently.
Oh, right, so he was proper...
gas and air,
weeks
everything,
ago.
like,
wow.
reckless.
You could see that, though.
Reckless.
Wow.
This
Oh.
is 12
Nice
weeks
little right hand sneaks
post-surgery,
through as well.
and
12
this is
weeks
my
post-surgery,
first,
yeah?
This is my first
And you've
title
just come
fight.
back?
Yeah. This is my
Title
first
fight.
title fight. First 5-round fight, and this is the first round. Got the Salford FC shorts on.
Repping it.
We got to get the class of 92 up on there.
Yeah.
Are you a Manchester United fan?
I'm a United fan, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Shame. I like
Oh
you.
my
You like me now?
Bergstrom making his debut.
Fuck yeah, you could be
2-0.
my best mate, bro.
Nice. And this is
We're
the
underway.
first fight back post-surgery. This was maybe 8 weeks post-surgery.
Okay.
Cautious.
This
Opening
lad's
here,
from
see if
Norway.
I can
Yeah, this
Bergstrom,
is
yeah, you can see he's
Yeah,
got
he flew in from Norway.
What's his
gotta
record
move that
like?
head off the
This
center line.
this was his debut, and this
He
was
looks
probably
like
the
Bergstrom.
toughest
Oh.
fight I've had to date.
Oh, right.
This guy
Spinning
came
kick
in
there
with
from
reckless
Bergstrom.
abandonment.
Yeah, you can see he's
Yeah.
wild,
Yeah.
man. He's happy to just swing.
I had to
And
push
this is
through
my-
this one. I had to find
Swing
a
for the
place where I was
fences, as they
comfortable, and
say,
he was
yeah.
not.
Knees to
And
the
this
quad.
this was the place where I was comfortable, and he was not. The minute I
What,
could
as in
press
up
him
on the
under-
cage, yeah.
When I pressed him against the fence, you said, do you watch your fights over and over?
Yeah.
I accumulated
These are
72
good shots. The knees to the
strikes.
Here.
thigh and the back of the
Throughout
leg.
the whole fight, throughout the whole fight.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Yeah.
72
Knees down
strikes
the
with
middle as
my
well.
knee
Now looking for the takedown again.
throughout the whole fight.
The thing is, even for
And
you,
little back
that would have been
work
energy
on
sapping
body
throwing
lock.
them these
Oh, yeah.
because of the movement.
Yeah.
to work.
It's quite an explosive movement.
I got out of
for
this
him.
fight,
Has the
went
back.
into the fresh air, threw up straight.
Can Bergstrom
Yeah, I
turn
bet.
into him here?
Yeah.
What was he
Because-
like though?
no,
after
no,
having
because-
72 knees?
Yeah, because he's
Oh yeah, I don't think he walked.
your anaerobic system would have been absolutely flushed.
Oh,
Everything.
push.
But you would have pushed that particular system.
Good fight IQ then again
Big
from
time.
Heffernan.
I
Drags
overcome
his
a lot
fight
of
to the
adversity
floor.
in this fight.
Because he did come out all guns
Oh, he
blazing.
came out.
Strong body lock,
he threw
looking to
everything,
get that
touching
post
something,
arm.
so.
You just controlled the tempo.
And what's this, round 3, yeah?
Yeah.
Right now, round 3.
Yeah. 3 of 5, yeah, at this
3
point.
of 3
Listening
this
to
one.
his
This is
corner.
the
Oh, this is
title
just,
fight.
oh, okay, so
Yeah.
this is back to 3.
when you're in that
Yeah, yeah.
position.
It's going to be one of those nights.
First
friends.
fight going
You're
the
gonna hear that a
distance.
lot, I think.
It's just, I don't understand why people sit.
Good to feel how I felt after it, and just how tired I was.
And was you absolutely shattered?
I was, you know.
Yeah.
Well, you made sort of an effort, so I'll let you take me down.
An overwhelming fight. I think once things start to get overwhelming, you fatigue a lot quicker.
Do you ever watch anyone's records after you fought them just to see where they end, like as in?
Yeah. So Sahil, the first knockout you saw there, he's had a good 6 or 7 fights now.
Oh, okay. Since that
Wins
fight.
and losses.
Oh, right. Yeah. That was a big KO.
But talk me through your first fight. How did you sort of like where was you training? What was your gym? What gym was you training at? And what was you sort of first thinking going into this fight here?
So I was at a gym called Manchester Top Team, quite a reputable gym. Good fighters coming out of there. One of the main fighters coming out of there at the moment is a man called Lerone Murphy.
Yeah.
Just got himself into
Lerone,
the top,
yeah, I know Lerone. Yeah.
Just got himself into the top 10 in the UFC. I'm not sure who will fight next, but he's just come off wins against Dan Ige, Edison Barboza. So he's pushing some really good names.
Yeah, Edison Barboza's.
Yeah, legend.
He's and that's what I'm saying. And look, kind of off camera, what we were talking about, that whole, you're protecting your O in boxing, and then he's had. I've only watched
maybe
and
30
he's had
fights.
Yeah, and I've seen him lose 15 of them possibly, and I was like, what?
He's still a credible legend.
Yeah, literally, and he's still in the UFC having big fights.
Yeah,
and sometimes pulls out some crazy knockouts.
Yeah,
crazy knockouts.
Definitely capable.
Them spinning kicks and stuff.
Yeah, and the leg kicks are always brutal on his part.
So he's okay. Wow.
Yeah.
I've never really rated Danny Game myself. But
no.
He's obviously a well-renowned name.
He's Brazilian, and he's a very good gatekeeper.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
He's a good gatekeeper.
He's put some prospects out of it.
Yeah, that's it. Obviously, that whole gatekeeper aspect.
Yeah.
If you can't get through him, then you're going to struggle getting to the top boy.
Yeah, no, of course. But I feel like in that sport, people have such different stances and such like different backgrounds. I feel like any fight can sort of go any way. Like anything can sort of happen in the sport, can't it?
The minute you make a mistake, a good fighter will make you pay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Literally.
There's not much room for error. Especially once you start getting into these high level fights.
Got to be on
high
top
level
of your
competition. Yeah, you ain't got a second to.
Charles Oliveira is my favourite.
Yeah, the minute you slip against him, he's on your back.
To watch though, he's just so exciting because he gives you that like Amir Khan factor as well, because he could get dropped any minute. And you don't know what's going to even happen after.
Dropped by Chandler finishes him.
Exactly.
Dropped by Gaethje finishes him.
Literally.
In emphatic fashion.
Yeah, exactly.
Well.
And I'm not even just like, he's big finishes.
In emphatic fashion.
That one against Gaethje, that was
the
was
Gaethje
enjoyable.
one. Then he transitioned through a few different submissions and just.
Who was it? Was it the Chandler fight? Because
when I first watched
it, when I first watched it, he got knocked down, and he basically moved. His head was facing the canvas, but he moved his head, evading punches without even seeing them coming.
Yeah, I think
in that particular fight,
it might have been that
and
fight.
I was like, I saw it live, and I was like, he didn't mean to do that, surely. And then when they slowed it down, he literally was. You could see that he was just
trying to get his head up
literally, because he knew that there was punches coming.
He knew something was going to come. Yeah.
Yeah, and like I was surprised the ref didn't stop it, because they were saying he almost did, but then realised that what he was doing was actually a defensive.
That's that
move.
veteran decision making, isn't it? Like,
he's unreal though, on the ground.
Yeah, like you see, most times he gets dropped, he sort of comes onto his bum and into his guard where he's safe. And I think on that occasion, he did get dropped on his front foot, and he was down forward, and he adjusted, and he still made the right decision.
He got saved by the bell.
Yeah,
fortunately, but yeah, what a mad fighter. He's enjoyable to watch.
Yeah, he's
fun to watch.
He's amazing,
and he's really skillful.
There's my two coaches,
Manchester Top Team,
as well as my best mate there, Daniel Holt. He's making noise on the scene. There's my dad's stepdad and dad. Actually, that's my granddad.
And these have stuck by you throughout the whole way. Would you say these are like?
Dad,
these are your
I could call any of these now, and they give me advice.
But dad was the one with the glasses.
The bigger fella, glasses.
That's your dad, yeah.
That's my dad.
You can tell.
And the other one was my granddad.
Yeah. Even though he's a bit bigger than you, obviously.
Yeah.
There you go.
And like you say, them three there. If I ever needed help, if I ever needed advice, I could call any of them right now, and they'd answer the phone.
And they'd answer the phone. Yeah. And that's what you.
That's nice to hear.
All great people. All great people.
I feel like everyone, even outside the sport, needs someone like that.
Yeah.
Someone like that.
And you hear that less and less, where you've got good, solid foundations. Like especially living on council estates and things. You know,
Yeah.
a lot of people don't
You really need
necessarily have
you really
that,
need good people around you.
or
to
that
aspire
solid
to.
foundation.
Yeah, you don't get it. You don't.
That's what
It's
I'm
a
saying.
rarity. You get it. It's
So
a rarity.
it's nice
you
to
get it.
hear.
Like if I was to look in, I've got a lovely family. I love my family to bits. But if I was to look at my family as a whole and see who I could aspire to, there's only one person financially and business minded I could aspire to. Like I was saying, my cousin, who's the lighting engineer. He's like the only one who's like really thriving in his career and really doing something that you can look at and think, wow, like
Something to aspire to.
I could do that
Yeah,
if I just
yeah,
worked hard. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like everyone needs something like that.
It's one of the
100%.
hardest things to get out of that
100%.
scenario of low socioeconomics, like poverty, or just that really low level working class manual labour.
Yeah.
It's hard to get
need
out
to
of
see
that
it before you can
environment
believe it.
without, guidance of how to do that, or just the general drive.
Yeah.
Because I think it's that mentality, that living on benefits mentality. It's like, well, my mum lived on benefits, so I'm going to do that. My and it's that,
Exactly.
you can only aspire to what.
Sometimes you
can
really
gain
need to
around
see
you.
something before you believe you can do it.
Yeah,
Sure.
100%. And I feel like everyone should go out there and do it. And don't get me wrong, there is a lot of people that go through the month just to get the UC, whatever. But I feel like everyone should sort of fucking find something that they enjoy and thrive off it and go for it. Go for it.
Yeah.
Go for it. You only live once. Just go for it, innit?
But
You never know.
that's because you've had people around you that are telling you to do that, or you've got people around you to aspire to.
Yeah.
If you haven't got anyone that you can see like that.
Yeah.
I guess now with social media, you can see someone, a random Joe blog
it's a lot easier to see people doing well.
or has started from nothing and built his way up. Before there was.
But back in our day when all this weren't really a thing.
Yeah, it was a bit harder. Or you
Yeah.
had people that you could look at, like a Richard Branson that started at Virgin as a market stall and ended up trying to get people to space. If you can even get to space, that's another question.
That's another podcast.
That's another podcast.
Another podcast. Ask my dad, who's a mechanical engineer, and he don't reckon there's an energy that can get you that far.
No.
Well,
but who knows? What do we know?
save
Innit?
that one for another one, innit?
Yeah,
what do we know? Just
innit?
keep it
What
real,
do we
man.
know?
Just
What
keep
do
it real
we
on the real
know?
side.
Nothing.
Talk about what we do now, innit?
Exactly. That's it. Nothing.
We better go mute.
That's it.
Oh, mate. But yeah, going back, so you've come out of your injury, and did you find it hard, like, to adapt to get back into the sport in the first place? Like, was it hard picking up a few things, or was you just boom straight into it and back off where you left, bro?
I really hit the ground running, I think just
You can see that from your face. You feel confident about that.
I think when I got on the mat, I was just that happy to be there. And don't get me wrong, before I went on the mat, I spent about 3 weeks purely getting fit and purely just shadow boxing. Like post surgery, I've got videos I can flag up of me doing sub 20 runs and relentless rowing machine intervals and even I had an exercise associated collapse on a static bike.
What do you mean? What's that for people that don't understand that?
So an exercise associated collapse is where you push yourself to you black out and you faint.
Right.
I think off the top of my head, I think I was doing something crazy like trying to get 18k in 25 minutes on a watt bike, and I passed out at 15k in about 20 minutes.
Yeah, that's mad.
I think the main reason I passed out is probably because I did rowing intervals the day before. And I did
push yourself.
the day before.
You're exhausted.
And like you say, I've just spent a year of not being conditioned to that. But the thirst and the hunger and the excitement drove you, and I had a little fumble there, and it was in a public gym as well, and I did it. I sort of knew it was happening. I managed to get myself over to the changing rooms, and I did it in a lockable shower. And I passed out on the floor there for about 30 minutes. And I was in my shorts. I remember the day I had white shorts on and a white t-shirt, and I'm sat there in the shower on the floor with the water going on there, and it took me about 30 minutes to get my way around it.
Wow.
And I walked out, and this were in Greenwich on Greenwich High Street, and I walked from Greenwich High Street to Woolwich Ferry in a white t-shirt and white shorts, soaking wet through, and you could see my boxers through my shorts. Anyone who looked at me thought, who's this kid and where's he been? I was humiliated, and I thought, just get me on. I probably had the most pale, whitest face you've seen. like a zombie. It was a mad experience.
Hasn't happened to you since though.
No, touch wood. Touch wood.
Touch wood,
You'll feel that feeling before it happens. It's a very familiar feeling because before you even get faint, you almost feel itchy. Like my arms were itching, and my face started itching, and I was pumping, and then that's when I sort of got like an instant fatigue where I slowed, and then
everything's just depleted at that point.
And I didn't feel faint until the moment I got off the bike, and it's quite a dark gym as it is, but when I got off the bike, I could see the window and the light come through, and it was sort of like an intense bright light, and I think that's what made me get a little bit dizzy, and then that was like, right, I need to get out of this social environment right now, so I got myself into a little private space there, and I was conscious for a bit. I started trying to take some clothes off, and I slipped and I banged my head off the floor. Luckily I didn't go unconscious. So that's when I got back up. I think by that point I'd got my t-shirt off and I just had the shorts on, and I got under the shower, and that's when I was trying to cool myself because I was in this closed environment and it was intensely hot, trying to cool myself, and then I slipped again in the shower. I hit the wall that time. And then I think my bum must have hit the floor, so I didn't get like as much of an impact, and I still wasn't unconscious. So then I could tuck myself around and press myself against the wall, and I sat there with my legs out. And I sat there for about 30 minutes, and I just waited there until I thought, right, I can actually get up and leave now. And it was embarrassing because I got out. The shorts I had on were my fight shorts. You don't have pockets in fight shorts. So I soon found out that I'd left my phone on the other side of the gym. So I'm walking around the gym, soaking wet, trying to find my phone. Some people must have noticed, but no one raised attention. Probably just left.
Or they did,
London's like that.
Obvious,
the maddest things can happen in London, and everyone will turn a blind eye to it.
Yeah, because
like,
there's enough not.
There's enough. So I've gone over there to get my phone. Phone's not even there. Managed to go over to the caretaker, say, found my phone. He's got my phone. Took it, gone out of the room. Thought, get me away from there. But
never coming back to this gym
but that's how hungry you were for it.
But you'll feel that feeling, and you'll understand that feeling, and you'll stop yourself before that. I think there were one time recently I went into a Bikram yoga class, which is a 90 minutes hot, intense yoga class, and there were a moment where my skin started to itch, and I got up and went straight out. I got up, went straight out, cooled myself down straight away. I thought, not happening to me again. Intense.
Is that the only time you've been sort of knocked out in a sense, training for the sport?
Knocked yourself out? Don't get me wrong, I've been rocked a fair few times. I've been rocked off a punch, and I've been rocked off a head kick. But I've never actually been unconscious.
Okay.
In my life, to
fully
be fair.
KO.
I've never been unconscious. Even outside of the sport, touch wood. Even outside of the sport, accidentally or anything like that, I've never had to experience full unconsciousness yet.
Nice.
Yeah. Touch wood.
Try avoid that one. Try avoid them shin bones coming at you.
Yeah.
Heavy that.
What? That's obviously worse, right? Getting kicked in the head than punch.
Imagine, yeah.
Because the head KOs, like sometimes they don't even look like they've connected very well.
The thing with a punch, it's never going to wrap around your head and get right on the back of it.
Yeah.
That shin, especially in that open stance, southpaw versus orthodox, someone throws that leg up, it's going right round the back of your head. It's going right round. And no, it's not an illegal move, it's unintentional. Like, you threw a head kick, what can you do?
Leon Edwards, that was one of the best.
If someone's facing you, you can't intentionally kick them in the back of the head.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, of course,
your foot and how your...
But just
shaped that way,
leads back to the body mechanics, doesn't it?
It's just shaped that way to catch the back of you, wrap it round,
So what's your plans going into this year, Ciaran?
So moving forward, we didn't get the fight February 22nd, as you know. There is a show. It works out really well. It's probably the only show in the UK MMA that amateurs weigh in on the same day. So you don't have to do any of the depletion, starvation, anything like this.
As much,
as much. So 30th of March, there's a show in the Midlands where I could weigh in on the same day. And then 14th of April, there's a show in Colchester where I can weigh in the day before. So we're going to try and get matched for both of them shows, really push the boat out there. And then from March, April, we'll move forward. And I'm really looking for an active year, like 6 minimum.
Are you trying to go pro this year, or are you trying to build up your amateur record?
There was a time where I was really, really optimistic, and I thought pro was only seconds away. I think this year I'm going to be an active amateur, and I think I'm going to get as much experience as possible in the amateur scene, and hopefully start 2026 as a professional.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing, you don't want to sort of rush into it. In a certain aspect, your record sort of gets like wiped, doesn't it, when you go to pro?
Yeah, you go pro.
No one really talks about
you
your
go pro, you're
amateur
0-0.
record. Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
So you could have 10 amateur fights, you could win 7, lose 3. You could anything.
You're back to 0.
The minute you go pro, 0-0.
Mm.
I know fighters who the amateur scene hasn't really suited their style well, and they've gone maybe 4 fights to 4 fights in amateur, but then the minute they've gone pro, they've been untouchable. Bigger cages, 5-minute rounds instead of 3-minute rounds, smaller gloves. All these things make a massive difference for some people.
Yeah. The small things make a huge difference.
They make a difference for people who have a technical approach on winning rounds over seconds in time and positions. That's why the amateur scene does really well for them, because they're not going to get knocked out and they can control these situations. Yeah. But then there's other people who, the amateur scene, they just couldn't get the finishes, so they just couldn't get the wins. And then they go to the pro scene, everything changes. They flourish.
Well, I always ask, I've got kids myself, and I'd always ask if there was someone that they could talk to that's in the industry that they were going to get into. If there was a young lad right now, or a young boy, London, wherever they are, anywhere in the world, and they wanted to get into MMA, what would your, have you got any couple of nuggets of advice that you would, say, this is something you should definitely think about when getting into it?
Into MMA?
Yeah. Or even thinking about trying to take MMA serious, or is there anything, like, you always hear boxing like behind the scenes. It's quite a dirty sport. I'm not saying MMA is a dirty sport, I'm saying just, for instance, if you was to try and give some advice to someone, a young person that's looking to get into the sport, what would you tell them to be aware of?
In terms of the politics, I don't think I'm in a position to give too much advice, but in terms of development, I could say get a good boxing base and get a good wrestling base and solidify this before you move forward, because the minute you move forward, everything else will make sense a lot easier.
Yeah.
The grappling will make sense a lot easier. If you can understand wrestling, then you can put a submission on the end of it.
Yeah.
If you can understand boxing and footwork, you can start to put other things on top of that.
Knockout.
I've seen a lot of people come into MMA, and there's so much to learn. And if you overwhelm yourself with that much information, you just might not take it all in.
Yeah.
Take every step at a time, and just stay present in every moment.
Yeah.
And take as much as weight
boxing,
as you can.
get a clean, good, well-rounded boxing, skill level, technique.
Primarily footwork.
Yeah. Footwork. Footwork. I would always say that to someone.
Honestly, primarily footwork.
One of my favourite boxers, Vasyl Lomachenko. What his dad did,
perfect.
Put him in dance, didn't he?
Literally,
put him in dance.
From 8 till 12, went, you're going to skip football now, and you're going to go dance. You're going to skip boxing, and look at the guy's footwork. He's literally dancing in the ring.
Footwork, but
I still don't think he's lost the fight, but that is what it is. If he was fighting every fight in Ukraine, and wasn't fighting against young up-and-coming American stars, he wouldn't have a loss on his record.
No.
I'm sorry.
Like you say, sometimes...
Him and Usyk, for me, when the first time I watched them in an amateur fight many, many moons ago, I was like, wow.
Yeah.
I watched every fight after that.
Yeah. I think, like you say, in these careers, sometimes outside influences can have a dramatic effect on how the fight
injuries
goes out
and things like that,
Audiences as well. Do you think audiences have a huge play on
they can
results?
Play a massive factor, especially in more regional scenes, and more so in professional scenes as well. Like you see it all the time.
Crowd.
Well,
look at fights.
Look at the Fury and Ngannou fight, for example. I think Fury won that fight.
I always looked at sports in COVID. Like, look at a fighter in COVID, or look at a football match. It was almost like a training session, or it was very different. Like, they were scoring screamers left, right and centre, and that's because there's no pressure
there's no outside
60, 80,000 fans screaming about you and about your missus and whoever else. Do you know what I mean? For instance.
Pressure can be a real impact.
When you're in that ring, because I've also heard like before, when people get in the ring, whether it's a boxing ring or whatever, they can't even hear the crowd. They're just so like locked in. the whole noise goes. Have you sort of experienced that? Like,
Millions.
once you get in there, you can't hear fuck all.
Honestly, I've like I say, in my earlier fights, I've fought in Manchester where I've had 100 tickets sold.
Yeah.
I've not heard anyone screaming my name. And in my later fights, I've fought in London O2 against a kid who's got 150 people, and I've still not heard no one booing my name.
Yeah.
So it's like you really don't like
tunnel vision.
yeah. You've got too much going on right in there. You got to worry about and all that.
Yeah.
Especially if you're really locked in and you really want to do well. Like I think maybe if I don't know if you swear on it, but if shit starts hitting the fan, then maybe these things will become a little bit more overwhelming. Especially every second you have to endure in these moments.
Yeah, you get clocked with a shot that you're not expecting. It's always the shots you.
Or if you're on the floor getting mauled, like you might have a second to think, wait, I can't hear anyone shouting my name. But present today, I've not the crowd or the outside influences. I've not had a dramatic effect on my performance, so to speak.
So you've never frozen, for instance.
No.
You always feel like you've kind of got in the ring, felt comfortable. You know, like you see fighters like they walk into the ring and they just look like different people from the fighter that they fought just the fight before.
Yeah.
Like AJ, for instance, as a good example. That Dubois fight, for instance, I looked at him and I was like, this guy does not look ready to get punched in the face.
No.
For instance. And Dubois was up for it. And you could just see, you know, that demeanour. There was another one, Povetkin, in his rematch with Dillian White. The guy looked like he couldn't even walk in the ring, let alone fight, for instance. But the fight before that just KO'd the guy.
All these outside influences have
of course.
dramatic effects on the day.
Bad training camp or just found something out before
crowds, fans, social media, even just
personal life,
even just fighter to fighter friction.
For real.
All these little moments where you see each other, you go through these little personal experiences with each other on the build up to the fight. All these things play into effect.
Yeah, of course.
Like if you're all ties down to mental clarity. If you can walk in, switch all this off and perform, then
that's what everyone says, though, isn't it? That especially kind of in the sport that you're doing.
Yeah.
You're 1 minute you might have, you know, that's why they say they don't want to see their kids and stuff through camp because it makes it harder for them to.
Yeah.
Because they have to keep switching.
Yeah.
Between dad. Or just normal life and the ring and
fight day. I don't speak to my bird. I don't speak to my mum.
Yeah, just that's it.
Yeah.
How do they find that?
Because you need to lock in, like you're saying.
How does your missus find that? Does she find that quite uncomfortable? Like the fact that you don't.
She's used to it.
She's used to it. Yeah.
More times she's working or something anyway through the day, so she's out of the house, but she won't ring me.
And she's from what you said, she's from an environment where she understands that performance element.
She's from a game day environment.
That's what I'm saying. So it's like game day, game face.
Yeah.
Get on with it. Get off with it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. She understands. The sport's different, but she understands the way of life to the fullest. It's a very similar way of life.
Yeah.
The grind,
performing, isn't it? At the end of the day, it's performing.
Yeah.
You know, one way or the other. She's just not getting punched for it.
Same aspect. Like she had her professional debut as a contemporary dancer just the other day on one of the bigger venues she could have been on. She wouldn't have wanted me ringing her, asking her what you're up to and whatnot on the day. Left her to crack on, left her to dial in. Yeah.
Nice. And that's because you both understand that environment.
Yeah, exactly.
Works, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I think it's the week before and the 2 weeks before that's hard because it's like the dieting, the lifestyle change. They sort of have to suffer with that as well. Like, well, mine more so because I'm more so the cook in my house. So it's like
she goes hungry for 2 weeks.
She's happy because she's skinny, but she's happy like looking at herself in the mirror and that. But you're sad because you're not eating nice. Like,
there you go. Chef's not about
chicken and broccoli for 2 weeks.
And so do you do all your own diet and nutrition and stuff?
Yeah. I don't get any outside nutritional advice present to date. More so because, like you say, I don't want to pay for it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm very enthusiastic about cooking and culture and the food culture. Like, I love
diet, would you say diet's a huge one? Obviously,
massive
fuel
aspect.
for your body. Fuel for your body, obviously.
Yeah.
Your
food is fuel.
What's your calorie intake like? Let's say, for instance.
I don't focus primarily on calories. I focus primarily on nutrition and the foods I'm putting into my body and
the fuel
added the right fuel.
What you're actually.
Do you know what? I've seen a huge difference myself as well with all this processed food and that, once you actually start cooking your own food and
Mate,
that, you see a huge
get
difference.
away
You
from
see
it
a
as
huge
much as
difference.
possible. Like,
Processed food
you'd be
is
lying if you said you didn't
ridiculous.
eat it. I do eat it, but
I had to on the way, like from the
Yeah.
farm. We had to just duck into a shitty McDonald's.
and get something quick.
Yeah, just
like
quick
you say,
because it was on road. Like it's
Yeah.
on the route. We just had 15 minutes. Or I want to made podcast. You know what I mean? It was either that or miss podcast. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, definitely. I think.
Yeah, the food is the fuel, especially
100%.
when it comes to close to the fight and you can have less of it, and then you've got to be even more specific on what you're eating and how well this is going to do for you and what you're going to get out of it, because you've got to eat this food, but you've also got to make weight.
Yeah.
And you've also got to do that session. And you've
I
also
always
got to
say
be on.
if it ain't white, if it's white when it comes to food, if it's white, it's not right. It's a good law to use. White rice, rubbish for you.
Yeah,
Brown rice,
no, you're right.
for
Full of
instance.
information.
As in
White bread,
sweets, they're
whatever,
all
yeah,
white,
yeah.
rubbish.
Full of information.
Anything white, generally, other than like cauliflower and veg that are white or fruit, but generally, if it's white, it's not any good for you. Really, pasta, better off eating brown pasta, unless you're like obviously
Yeah,
carbonated.
it's the wheat and whatnot inside
Yeah,
it.
exactly.
So all the grains are full of information. Aren't they?
Yeah. No, I think it's really important. It's nice to hear that.
Right, going off topics, we are talking about food and
Yeah,
nutrition.
Be chefing up in a minute. We'll have a kitchen here in a minute.
Oh,
Have
it's
to,
one of
have
my
to change the
favourite
scene.
things to talk about.
Change the scene. Get the apron on.
Yeah, that's it.
But just to conclude, obviously you said you want to focus on your amateur fights this year and whatever. Is there any sort of thing outside of the sport you want to sort of focus on, or any goals or like New Year's resolutions you've got? Just random ones.
So I've never been massively into New Year's resolutions until this year, and I've not really gone for like a New Year resolution. I've gone for like a quarterly resolution. So I've set a few smaller achievable goals that I'm going to do this quarter, and then towards the end of this quarter, I'm going to do second quarter, third quarter, fourth quarter.
So like loads of short to medium
and then I can
easier to hit.
Yeah,
Easier to hit.
and less time frame, which means you've got to be more accountable.
What's this quarter's target then?
So the quite basic. I'm not the most flexible guy, so
Flexible in terms of like actual flexibility.
Yeah,
Yes,
I'm not the most flexible guy. So my main focus this year has been to improve strength in mobility, and I've set myself a few little goals. I want to improve my handstand, and I also want to get into what's called a back bridge. You've probably seen it.
Yeah.
At the moment, I'm not there, but I've actually took a lot of my strength and conditioning away from weight training, away from even plyometrics at the moment because I'm not in camp, and I'm working solely on strength and mobility. A lot of my shoulders, scapula, lower back, and then I've even been dabbling a little bit in like Pilates and stuff like that.
I was literally just about to say, I got a really good dance teacher that will definitely get you flexible quite quickly, to be honest. Yeah, she's good.
I'd take that up,
Really good.
But yeah, that's this quarter's goal: back bridge, handstand, and overall mobility improvements.
I might have to join you. I've got
because
arthritis.
this first quarter I won't be fighting because, like I said, the first fight is probably going to be 30th of March, which will be in the second quarter.
Right. Okay.
You need a flexibility buddy.
Yeah.
Because I've got arthritis, and right now I'm in bits.
Yeah.
Damp weather is horrible, and I just feel so clunky, especially in my back, because I've mainly got arthritis in my back.
Yeah.
So hearing you say you want to get into
the more you
bridge,
move, the better it'll be.
100%. Yeah. Well, the job I do is quite active anyway.
Yeah.
So.
I think that this sport it's an unforgiving sport that just tears your body to bits, and if you're not focusing on recovery and mobility, leading back to what the advice I'd give to a younger peer, just focus heavily on mobility, focus heavily on recovery, because if you want to be in this for a long time, then you need to be set up for it.
There you go. For someone that said he didn't have too much advice to give out,
There's a bit of advice.
make sure you got a good wrestling background, boxing background, or as sound techniques to go into with good skill set.
Good fundamentals.
And then make sure footwork, diet, flexibility,
recovery.
There's 6 there, mate.
There you go.
So if you've made it this long,
he didn't have
at
any.
least
Squeeze
take
it
one
out
of
on
them.
Yeah, exactly.
Like
We
getting
got it
blood out of a
you.
stone.
Listen, I said I'd get it out of you. There you go. No, there you go, guys. If there's anything you want to look at, those 6 fundamentals.
That's it, man. But yeah, this has been the Real Side podcast. thanks for watching. Like and subscribe if you wanna. You don't have to.
You got it.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah,
you
well,
do.
right,
What
I
you
like that. I
talking
like
about?
that from
Yeah,
you. You got
do.
it. You
You've
got it. You
to.
got it. You
You
got it.
watched the whole thing now. You've come 50 minutes into it. You might as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's
exactly.
it. That's it. But yeah, man, it's been a pleasure to have you on. It's been a pleasure to have
It's
you
been a
on.
pleasure, boys.
Yeah,
Thanks,
yeah,
man.
no, it's been
great.
good, man. Really enjoyable, and obviously interesting. You know, we both like our boxing and stuff. So
Yeah, that's it. We're gonna try to stay a little bit more active this year. Try and get some good guests on this year. So stay tuned. And,
if you got anyone
Yeah,
that you
definitely.
Yeah,
think
man,
would, like, you know, fancy a
Yeah.
little flutter in front of the camera,
Yeah.
bit of
definitely.
exposure.
A lot of upcoming athletes in
That's
different
it. That's
sports
it.
and
That's
different
that's
areas.
literally
Yeah.
get them now.
anyone that wants to keep it real on the real side, literally.
They keep it real.
That's it.
Yeah,
man.
and just
Keep it
you
real.
know, get a bit of exposure for themselves prior to
Yeah.
hitting that big stage. You know,
Exactly.
that'd be wicked.
That's it, man.
Nah, I'm grateful. Thank you, boys.
Really
No worries.
appreciate it.
Thank you
Nice
for
to see
watching,
you.
everyone, and hope everyone has a good year. See you later.